Hello and welcome to another episode of B60 TV. Here with my good friend and colleague Pete Gatenby, and we're not live today. This is definitely a recorded session for the very simple reason that we didn't get everything ready in time. But there you go, we're doing it anyway. And today we're going to be talking about a little article that came up in the Daily Mail of all newspapers. But it's an interesting one because it was from last week, but the headline is what kind of brought it to my attention.
It was on the front page as well?
Yeah, no, it says we're addicted to our mobile phones. We check our phones every 12 minutes. 6 in 10 couldn't live without them. Women overtake men in web use. Adults spend a day online each week. And the stats in here are actually, not surprising, I don't feel.
No.
But what I found interesting about this, and the topic for our little TV session here, mate, was there's two ways to look at this.
Yeah.
There's clearly an impact to this stuff, and we'll read through some of these stats in case the audience don't know them, but there's a negative impact to this, which is there's a social impact on people's lives, irrelevant of gender, but we think about kids and stuff like that. And then the other side of it is opportunity. And sort of what opportunities it creates. So let me just read some of the stats that we're talking about here. Just a few of the headlines. From a smartphone standpoint, the average Briton checks their phone every 12 minutes. I'll tell you where these stats came from, by the way. 78% of people own a smartphone. The figure was 17% a decade ago. Among 18 to 24-year-olds, 95% have a smartphone. This is in the UK, by the way. 2 in 5 adults look at their phone within 5 minutes of waking up. I can relate to that.
Yeah, definitely.
60% of over 35s check their phones every 5 minutes before they go to bed. Now here's some interesting one. How long do we spend on our phones each day? The average person is 2 hours 28 minutes. 18 to 24-year-olds, 3 hours 14 minutes. That doesn't surprise me.
No, I can believe it.
So, I'm going to come on to some of the gadget bits, but as we look at this from a kind of a social negative impact, we talk about digital transformation. Typically the topics that we talk about providing value for our audience are all around how businesses can leverage the opportunity around mobile. But I would like to start off with not necessarily well, it is a negative, it is a downside, because actually, as an employer, as many of our audiences are large-scale enterprises, large workforces, actually the introduction of smart devices has empowered and enabled those businesses to do some great things. However, from a social responsibility standpoint and welfare standpoint, it's also made employees always on and always connected, which is great from a positive standpoint. But actually the other side of it, there's quite a big responsibility there.
Well, absolutely, there's a massive responsibility, and we also can't ignore the distraction. Smartphones are a distraction, massively so. I mean, we pull each other up on it all the time when we're in meetings or we're having even just a conversation between kind of peer-to-peer within the workplace.
Well, our strategy session on Friday, it was a big thing that we were
I mean, all the phones went in a box and we weren't allowed to check the phones unless there was an emergency or very set times. And that's a symptom of the distraction of notifications, of almost that feeling that you've got to be connected. Now I must admit, I am one of those who gets a little bit of anxiety when they're away from the phone, not because I need to be near it, but because there's so much going on in our working day. Yeah. And especially during the working day when you're disconnected from your phone. It's a bit different on weekends, I'm not bothered on a weekend, but during the working day when things are going on, I do get a bit of anxiety because I'm like, is something going to be there? Yeah. Is it going to be kind of winding itself up that I'm then going to have to deal with a bigger situation than if I catch it straight away?
You've got anxiety now because your phone's one of the ones.
Yeah. Well, I actually did do not disturb, so I hope no one rings me. But so I mean, but then on the flip side, when you're at your desk, when you're trying to get through some work, I know myself, I have to put my phone on Do Not Disturb and then just check it periodically, because if I see a notification, I'll
it's distracted. And that's one of the negative sides of this, because from distraction is huge, and there's statistics out there. And Simon Sinek's, the guy who wrote Start With Why, I've seen a video of a talk that he did about how once you're distracted, the speed for which it takes for you to get back on track is kind of like it produces your productivity. I don't know the exact figures, but it's a significant amount. Yeah. And if you think about it, you know, employees, they're all struggling with that because of this constant distraction. And so almost gone are the days. So these stats are very interesting, but they also have an impact. And I'm bringing that back to the point of what can we do to prevent that. I think that from a welfare standpoint, it's important to have an open forum, and that organisations should definitely be thinking, well, look, if you've got a smart device, you know, we'll trust you to use it when you need to use it. But you know what? You've got to go home at some point, and we've had this conversation in one of our other B60 TV episodes about blurred lines. You know, some people are very 9 to 5, others are a bit more, well, you know, work whenever. But at the same time, it's so important to have that downtime, because the problem is that one device is okay, but there's some people who have multiple devices, i.e. 2 phones, because of their work commitments. But everybody in our organisation just has one, you know, whether they use it for, we don't mind them using it for private use to a certain extent. But that then makes it difficult to turn off from work, and we definitely have a responsibility with that. And it's interesting how all this is sort of coming to the fore. I did say that I'd say where these statistics came from, which I will tell you in a minute because I've forgotten.
So what do you think about the social impact? So we think about being at home now, and then you get the cliche picture, probably see it online every so often, when there's kind of a family sat around the table and there's
that.
Oh yeah, there's like, we'll try and snippet the picture and put it on the video if someone can be technologically advanced like that. But a family sat around having some social time together, and they're all on their individual phones. Now, I think it's an interesting argument. Now, socially, it's like sociologically and all that side. I just find it fascinating. But my view on this is really simple. Like, if you're on your phone and you're with someone, then clearly you don't actually want to spend that much time with them. You want to be spending time with whoever you're texting or messaging or interacting with. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule, but I do think when you're in kind of spending an extended period of time with someone, you should focus on them. I mean, that's just my opinion. I know everyone's different, so.
I agree. I've certainly been pulled up in that in my private life for kind of almost being on the phone too much and too often.
And me too,
even, you know, it was my birthday the other day, and even one of my kids had written a joke in the card about me being on my phone. And actually, whilst it was, you know, in jest, you know, many a true word can be spoken in it, and it was a stark reminder of the fact that, you know what, they are wonderful things, smart devices. They've changed many lives for the positive, but there's also a negative that comes with it. And I think the point here is that we have to be aware, and I think awareness is the key thing here, and understanding just, you know, from as I say, we talk about business, but you know, there's an importance for business leaders, business owners to be mindful of employee activity and understand two things. One, it can be a distraction during the workplace when they're getting multiple notifications to actually productively get things done. And secondly, out of work, people need to switch off. People need to spend time with family and just really kind of tune out. So it's an important one. But
let's talk about the benefits.
Let's talk about the benefits.
Right. Let's start with the social benefits to start with, then we'll go on to the work benefits. Socially, I think technology is great because, well, I spent a lot of time around the world. We both spend a lot of time working away. Our loved ones are a long way away from us. My other half doesn't live locally. FaceTime, video calls, things like that allow you to have that face-to-face relationship with someone who's not necessarily there, which I think is great. I think it adds a lot of benefit. And then you've got the kind of flip side of social networking and things like that. You can interact with quite large groups of people quite easily. And I think that's one of the huge benefits. Yeah,
very much so. And equally, I have a family that's dispersed, you know, across the country, travel a lot, and it has empowered and enabled, you know, better relationships in some instances. But equally, you don't want to be a parent or a sibling, mother, father, brother, sister, whatever. That's just, you know, the FaceTime guy or girl. You know. But the positive definitely is that I think in terms of future, and we start looking at this from an enterprise standpoint now. There's a very clear idea now. We've known for a long time. Most organisations know if they're not in the mobile sphere, if they're not adopting digital technology and forming part of their transformation in business, well, they're going to be behind, you know, on that adoption curve. But you know, we talk about smartphones. It's interesting that in one of these statistics here, that 10% of radio listeners now are using a smart speaker to tune in, and I think voice is one of the biggest opportunities, that sits there, and there are few organisations that are really starting to look at Alexa integrations and things like that. Certainly from what I can see, both across the retail space and other areas, which I found incredibly interesting. I mean, I know you're part of a group that talks often about this sort of stuff.
And it's a fascinating area because voice is kind of bursting on the scene rapidly, and there's a bit of it's definitely a land grab market for sure, as is AR, VR, and what we're seeing within voice is the added dimension to a digital experience, like an omni-channel digital experience, whether that's mobile, web, voice, whatever it might be, is huge because you can almost create a new opportunity. Obviously, a new opportunity. But you can create new, previously impossible features. So, I mean, we were discussing in the group about how you could potentially, how retailers, and we're talking about grocery retailers now, could utilise it to add a value add in terms of helping users with a recipe, whether that's providing timings when they put chicken in the oven, or reading the recipe out to them, because it's always difficult to read a recipe when you're cooking because your fingers are messy and stuff. Equally so, when you start to run out of things, you can tell Tesco to add it to your shopping list, which you then go completely order on your phone. And suddenly, this digital experience, this journey that people go through digitally to interact with brands and organisations becomes complete, where there was almost a frontier that could not be bridged before is now being bridged.
And that leads me to a big point that I wanted to make. The positive impact of this is, whilst these statistics are large, they're not unsurprising for me.
I mean, I'm surprised how little some of those are.
Yeah. But if we look at the pace of enablement now and change, and we talk about organisations need to trial and test a lot of this technology.
Absolutely.
We talk about voice, we talk about there's AR and VR in here. They need to trial and test it. One of the challenges 5 years ago with some of this technology was there wasn't enough consumer usage, and therefore the testing cycle, i.e. the hypotheses that were coming out and the iterative cycle, was longer because the test volumes weren't there in order to kind of test ideas and think, whereas now with this level of consumption and volume of uptake, the opportunity to actually rapidly deploy new ideas, life-changing things into the consumer market, into the enterprise market, is actually a very positive thing. And that's my biggest takeaway from a positive standpoint here. You know, whenever we're kind of looking at these and we're working with organisations that we're either consulting with or advising or even doing the technology development for them, it's like, well, we can now move a lot quicker because look, this is all here. And these stats were Ofcom, by the way. It was an Ofcom report.
Okay, there you go.
So there you go. So they're kind of my benefits, and I think that's pretty much it. It was one topic today. It was just very much driven by this article in the Daily Mail. So if you look for it, it was out on Thursday, the 2nd of August. If you want to have a look at the finer detail to that one. So thanks very much for tuning in. We'll be back next week with some more topics around digital transformation, mobile and emerging technologies. If there's any particular topics that you want to talk about or ask us any questions on, just comment below and we'll pick those up and be certain to raise them for next time. So we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.